Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Early Edge, brought to you by BetMGM, the sportsbook born in Vegas. Loving what I'm seeing from the chat already. Everybody very excited that Buckets almost hit that Luka prop, first basket three-pointer from Luka. What was it, 10, 20 to 1? Either way, he took a three-pointer to start the game, and, he missed it. But great stuff from Buckets. As usual, KC3 saying, Ben crushing the edits. Shout out to Ben. Hit the like button. Let's see how we did yesterday before we bring in the stars of the show. I think we were coming off a 5-1 day the day before, if memory serves. Well, we go 3-3 here. Buckets 1 for 2. Tom Casale hits Missouri pretty easily. Mackenzie Brooks 1 for 2, and we miss the SportsLine pick with San Jose State. But it's time to turn the page. 3-3 is not bad. Certainly not good. Let's try to go for good with the stars of the show, which of course includes you, Reed Phillips and Richard Pierre and Chris Kish and Jeff Hatley, but also our favorite, Martin Green. We've got Zack Cimini. We've got Tom Casale. We've got a lot to talk about. Martin, I got to ask you right off the bat, how you doing, sir?
I'm doing great, thank you, Sia. Yeah, lots of soccer on this week. English Premier League, Coppa Italia, Coppa del Rey. So lots to get into. Looking forward to breaking down a couple of soccer games. And hope for some winners.
Tom, talk to me about your reaction to Missouri. I don't even remember what the final margin was. I know they were up by like $1 billion at halftime. That went exactly how you predicted, correct?
Yeah, no, I know in this world, I know three things: type 1 diabetes, bench pressing, and the Missouri basketball team. Those are the, if you want to talk about any three of those things, give me a call. I've had luck with Missouri this year. They've been really well coming off a loss and then going back home, where that's the loudest stadium I've heard all season. I think that place is nuts, and they just feed off the way they play. They feed off that energy, so they hammer inferior opponents there.
Zach, last time I saw you, I was in the CBS Sports studios down in South Florida, where the weather was amazing, and the crew was amazing, and the co-hosts were amazing, and the analysts were amazing. You came on to a segment with me, I believe it was Friday night. You went 3-0. You had Michigan State. You had Miami of Ohio, and I can't remember the third game, but it was just such an impressive performance from you. I assume you came today with some more college basketball?
Yeah, the other one was Villanova. That was probably the best one of the three, because Miami, Ohio had to go to overtime to win. Yeah, I went to college basketball. I got up early to examine some of the games, and you know where I'm going. It's going to be a small conference play. It is a big favorite, though, already on the site, so take a look before that line starts to move.
Well, Zach, you're going to be busy on SportsLine. You're going to be busy on HQ, hopefully busy on the Early Edge, too, because we're about to get into those smaller conference championship tournaments. And you are certainly one of the specialists, if not the specialist, when it comes to that. Let's start with some picks, though. And let's start with maybe a bigger name, Tom Casale. Yesterday, it was Missouri. Today, it's Kentucky.
Yeah, listen, you're not going to retire betting Kentucky on the road. But, I've been fading Oklahoma this past month, and they got me on Saturday against a terrible Mississippi State team. They scored 59 points in the second half. I'm not going to let that throw me off. I don't think Oklahoma's back. And the big thing here for me is the SEC is the only conference that has an injury report, and the coaches have been pretty honest about it. And Kentucky's been shorthanded this last month without Jackson Robinson and Lamont Butler. Both of those guys were listed as probable last night. Now, the last two games, they were listed as out the day before. So probable is pretty good that at least one of them plays. So I was just trying to get ahead of the line movement there. I don't think Kentucky's going to blow them out. I think it'll be a higher scoring game, as Kentucky games usually are, similar to the Kentucky-Mississippi State game at Mississippi State, where Kentucky won 85-80. I can see that type of game. But I took the money line last night, and I like either the money line up to 160 or the spread at -3 or less. I think Oklahoma has shown us who they are over the last month of the season. I'm not going to take one good half against Mississippi State and change my mind. So pretty competitive game, but I'd like Kentucky to win it by 3 or more.
All right, Kentucky by 3 or more. One thing you mentioned there, Tom, and I don't know, maybe I just heard it wrong, but you said Kentucky kind of releases injury reports, or maybe the SEC does. Is that different? Is that a contrast to other conferences?
Yeah, they started it in football this year. So the SEC is always ahead of everybody. I don't care if you're a Big Ten fan or whatever. The SEC has the most vision when it comes to how to do things correctly and to make money, right? They just do. And this was a great listen. When I was in a rough patch at the end of January, 3 games I took, a top player was announced out an hour before tip-off. You know, when you're going bad, those things just happen to you, right? And I was like, Jesus, I never know who's playing in these games. So I kind of gravitated to the SEC a little bit, because when guys are questionable, or if you don't know if they're playing, they're often listed out the night before, which helps you. So, you know, that's one thing I like that the SEC does, and I think over time more colleges will go that way.
Yeah, that reminds me of on Friday, I liked Iowa State plus 7.5. And then suddenly right before tip-off, I believe it went to like 11.5. And I'm like, okay, I clearly missed something. There was some late news here. That might have been more my fault than a lack of an injury report. But still, those things would help quite a bit. Martin, I got to tell you, there's so many soccer comments and questions in the chat. Before you give out your 2 picks, I know one's for today and one's for tomorrow. Is there anything pressing that you need to address? Because I feel like I'm ignoring like 75% of the population here.
There's a lot of chat, about today's games. Snug's asking about Everton, Brentford. Can Everton score over 1 goal? I think that's looks like quite a tight game. I think it could finish 1-1. Everyone's asking about Arsenal versus Nottingham Forest. I don't think Arsenal have got a very good chance in that one, sadly, because no strikers at the moment. All their strikers are injured, so I'm not getting on them, I'm afraid. I like that bet there from Dave. Both teams could score an over 2.5 goals in the Liverpool game, because they don't need to win. They're 11 points clear of Arsenal now. And Newcastle are a very dangerous side in great form right now, coming off a 4-3 win against Nottingham Forest. So, I like goals in that game. That looks like a good approach. And people asking me, where's the faith? Where's the faith in Arsenal? My faith vanished with a 1-0 defeat to West Ham yesterday.
All right. Fair enough. Sorry about that, Chris Kish. Mark, a couple of questions. One, I think you already answered. You would take Kentucky minus 2.5. I think you said that. You think they win by 3 or more. But Mark Buchholz wants to know, do you know where to guide people to, find out where the SEC injury reports are?
So what I do is I just search like Lamont Butler injury on social media or in Google, and then it'll come up. The injury reports come up from the local beat writers, because they get them as soon as they come out, and they'll say, update on Lamont Butler injury status, and so that's really how I do it.
Gotcha. Okay, that makes sense. I mean, that's it's funny if you think about it, how easy things can be these days, just by Googling a name, maybe Googling a name and putting the word injury next to it, and all of a sudden some of these resources end up popping up. All right, Martin Green, you answered some chat questions. How about answering this question? What are your picks for today and tomorrow?
As I said, there's lots of big games taking place in the Premier League today, but I've got quite a lot of leans, but nothing really amazing grabbing me. So cast my net a bit further afield. And I'm looking at Scotland. Rangers, who are one of the 2 big teams in Scotland, along with Celtic, fired their manager at the weekend after a disappointing home defeat to St Mirren. That left them 16 points behind Celtic in the table. They've now installed club legend Barry Ferguson as temporary head coach. He was a great midfielder for Rangers for many years. I think the team could enjoy a new manager bounce now. They've got an away game against Kilmarnock today. They really should win that. They beat Kilmarnock 6-0 in December. That bodes well. I think if you can beat a team 6-0 a couple of months ago, you should at least be able to beat them 1-0 or 2-0 today. Pretty good odds on Rangers, but just to get it the odds a bit closer to plus 100, I'm combining them with Juventus. They're taking on Empoli in the Coppa Italia. Empoli are the worst team in Serie A right now. 0 wins, 2 draws, and 8 defeats from their last 10 games. I think they're on a 4-game losing streak. Juventus beat them 4-1 at home a few weeks ago. They should be able to repeat the feat in Coppa Italia today. So stick them both together at minus 125. And Lots of big games in the Premier League, but I can talk about them on the chat. But one that really stood out to me is actually taking place tomorrow. It's the West Ham versus Leicester game. Leicester actually beat West Ham 3-1 a couple of months ago, but things have gone downhill for the Foxes since then. They're languishing in the relegation zone. I think it's 10 defeats from their last 11 games, playing really badly. West Ham have a new manager now, Graham Potter. I think they should gain revenge. They picked up that famous win against Arsenal at the weekend. They'll have the wind in their sails, and I think they'll score. But Leicester have actually found the back of the net in 9 out of 12 away games this season, while West Ham have conceded in 12 of their 13 home games at the London Stadium. So I think they could struggle to deal with Leicester's pace on the counter-attacks. I'm going for a simple both teams to score bet at -133. If you want a bit more value, could just be a West Ham moneyline win and both teams to score. But that's what I'm looking at.
All right, we got a couple of plays, one for today, one for tomorrow. And we've got a couple of plays courtesy of SportsLine. We're going right back to the SportsLine picks. We've got one from Prop Bet Guy and one from the Maestro. Let's start with James Harden under 26.5 points at -110. That's from Prop Bet Guy. And Arkansas at home against Texas. Arkansas is -3.5 at -115. Before we get to the next subject matter, Tom or Zach, do any of you have any response to that Arkansas -3.5? I mean, Tom, I love a desperate team, and Arkansas is still desperate enough to maybe qualify for March Madness. I mean, this is a game they certainly need. What are your thoughts on Arkansas in general, Tom?
Yeah, well, I've kind of stayed away from Texas games this year because they're so volatile. They have talent, but they have a bottom tier coach. I mean, they just do. They need a new head coach because they'll come on one game, they'll beat Kentucky, and then they'll get blown out by South Carolina. That's coaching, and so they're hard to predict. I like the way Arkansas is playing. I mentioned Missouri. I had Arkansas on Saturday on that, Missouri just beat Alabama angle, but. In all honesty, I thought Missouri played well. Arkansas just played better. It wasn't like Missouri came out and they didn't have any juice. Arkansas just outplayed them and pulled away in the second half. So when you look at it that way, Arkansas is whatever Calipari did there. He's kind of settled on the right lineup. I know they have a couple injuries though, so that'll be interesting tonight. Close game. I lean the Hogs at home.
It's interesting you mentioned injuries because I kind of liked St. John's over Butler. St. John's visiting Butler. They were laying 7.5. It's now 6.5. I don't know if that's just sharp money on Butler or if maybe Kadari Richmond and Lewis maybe banged up enough to impact the line there. Zach, any thoughts on that Arkansas game, or was that just something you didn't look at?
I didn't look at the game per se, but the team itself, I've been impressed. Oftentimes you see a key injury help a team, and I think that's what's happened with Arkansas. Calipari's got his team to buy in, and you have that youth and veteran mix Arkansas has. So it took some time. It really, with Johnell Davis, he has been playing tremendous from where he was at the beginning of league play. He looks like a completely different player on defense and the offensive end of the floor.
All right. Richard Pierre saying, Sia pacing himself for the early wedge. We've got a decent amount of people watching right now. Hit the like button. But more importantly, if you all, even if you're not golf fans, I want you to know that the early wedge, that new launch of 5 shows, well, one of them is right after this show. So every Wednesday at 10:30, right after the early edge, me, Rick Gaiman, and Patrick McDonald are going to talk about whatever questions you have, whatever the hot topics are. We're going to talk about it on this live chat. I mean, it literally starts in 15 minutes. Whether you're a golf fan or not, honestly, get in there, have some fun with us. It's going to be a very laid back atmosphere. And if you're in here now, hopefully you can be in here then, because again, it'll start pretty much right after this show at 10:30 every single Wednesday. Ladies and gentlemen, hopefully you've already taken advantage of the first bet offer of $1,500 plus the SportsLine subscription. If you haven't signed up for BetMGM yet, sign up now and you will get up to $1,500 first bet offer on your first wager with BetMGM plus a 1-year subscription to SportsLine with bonus code SportsLine1500. Get exclusive members only picks for all major sports from proven models and 40 plus Vegas experts, plus predictive tools for pick'em, brackets, player stats, and more. This is how you get the offer. 4 easy steps. Download the BetMGM Sports app and register an account using bonus code SportsLine1500. Make your first deposit of at least $10. Place your first wager and receive up to $1,500 back in bonus bets if the bet loses. Claim your free 1-year subscription to SportsLine in your BetMGM inbox. It's really that easy. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we got to get to more picks. We got to get to that small school pick from Zack Cimini. We got to get to my golf pick for tomorrow early morning before the early edge starts up. That's when this golf pick will be going. We'll hit it all right after this message from our partners.
Who's in? Who's out? Let the madness begin. The NCAA Men's Basketball Championship Selection Show on CBS and streaming on Paramount Plus.
All right, we're back on the early edge, brought to you by BetMGM, the sportsbook born in Vegas. I'll be quick with my round 1 3-ball, Zach. I want to get to your pick and a couple of games that I'm at least somewhat interested in that I'd like to get your and Tom's response to. I'm going to a round 1 3-ball. I think I've only given out plus money plays so far. This is a pretty big plus money play as well. Ryan Gerard plus 145 over Jesper Svensson and Quade Cummins. So here's the thing. I like Ryan Gerard as a first-round leader. I think he's an interesting long shot to win this tournament. Although, if I'm being honest, on a tough course like this, I don't know that he can win it, except for the fact that, 2 or 3 years ago, he finished 4th here. I mean, this is kind of a no-name guy in a lot of circles, and he's got really good experience here, and he's coming in playing really, really well. Anybody that's doing modeling, Ryan Gerard's gonna he's going to show really well. Ball striking, putting, you name it. He's got it. So I think he's really sneaky. Now, Jesper Svensson's been playing really well as well. I think he is going to compete with Ryan Gerard, but I'm getting a plus 145. I don't think Quade Cummins, who I believe doesn't have experience here either, neither does Jesper as far as I know. I don't think Quade Cummins is really going to compete with these other two. Jesper can surprise us, but I think Ryan Gerard, I think he's viable to be a first-round leader here at, I believe, 75 to 1. I'll put my first-round leaders in the SportsLine Discord. I put them in on the early wedge yesterday as well. But give me Ryan Gerard plus 145 in a round 1 3-ball. Best number is at BetMGM. Other places have this at like plus 140. All right, that's a little bit of golf. Let's talk about a little bit of some little schools. Not literally little, but little names, Zack Cimini. We're going to, correct me if I'm wrong, Wofford.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Wofford. And my rule of thumb in majority of sports is I'm not going to touch double-digit spreads. So this is right on the cusp of that. I'm going to lay the 8.5 with Wofford over Western Carolina. It's not often you have a 500-level team favored by this many points. And this spread's actually higher than the 8-point victory Wofford had in their home victory against Western Carolina in their first match. It was a 77-69 result. But this Wofford team has beat up on the bottom-level teams in SoCon play. 2 double-digit wins over Mercer, beat Citadel by double digits, and last week against VMI beat them by 39 points. And that's my strong suit with this play here is Wofford is much stronger on the road than they are at home. Last 4 games at home, they've lost. Last 4 on the road, they have won, and they're 6-2 on the road in league play. Been some good wins over UNC Greensboro and Furman. And when I look at Western Carolina, they had a nice stretch, a 6-game stretch where they were hanging around in games. That came to an end in their last game against Samford, lost by 21 points, back-to-back games of giving up 90 points or more. So lay the number here, 8.5 with Wofford.
All right, 8.5 with Wofford. Okay, can I ask a question? And Martin, I do want to get to you for some soccer reaction from anything in the chat. Richard Pierre says, "Can we get 100 likes before the show ends? I'm taking the over." Oh, let me check. Richard Pierre, thank you for endorsing the like button. We're close. We're only 5 likes away or 7 likes away from and we got a good watch and like button ratio. At least it's better than normal. So thank you, Richard Pierre. Let's hit that over. The over was minus 120. We laid the juice. I like the over there. We probably already hit it. Don't forget to join us at 10:30 as well. Zach and Tom, I want to ask you guys about Villanova at Seton Hall. Now, I'm a big Georgetown Hoyas fan. I've been to 2 Georgetown games so far, both in the last few weeks. I saw them play Seton Hall. They won. I saw them play Butler. They won. Butler was a little bit more impressive than Seton Hall. We have Villanova, who's not a super impressive team. Tom, I'm going to start with you. They're laying 7.5 at Seton Hall. I think Seton Hall is just downright bad. I think this is an interesting spot for Villanova to get a convincing win. Again, they're laying 7.5 points. Any thoughts on that game? Tom, I'll start with you.
Yeah, you mentioned it. Seton Hall is bad, but Villanova is one of those teams I just don't trust. Villanova, I have to hit in the right spot, like Zach mentioned last week when he had them. You want them as like a home dog, a 1-point favorite at home against UConn. Those type of spots is where I want to take Villanova. I just don't trust that team enough. They rely so much on the three to lay these many points on the road. These are the type of games that they've kind of faltered in over the last couple of years. So it's a no play for me. You want to pick your spots with Villanova. This isn't one of them.
Zach, any follow-up?
Yeah, exactly what Tom said, because the way they shot against Marquette, lights out from 3-point range. I think they had high 40 points in the first half. That is not going to happen back-to-back games with the way that Nova has played this year.
All right, fair enough. Martin Green, let's close it out with any reaction to any of the many, many soccer comments in the chat for you.
Yeah, there's lots of great comments coming in. Really enjoying the vibrant chat we've got going.
Yeah.
Steve's looking at sprinkle on Tottenham. I do think they could potentially get a result against Manchester City today. They look back in business now. They've got some players back from injury. I like that bet there on Real Sociedad, both teams to score against Real Madrid. Pretty good team at home, La Real, and I think that one sounds great to me. Eric's got a futures bet, which I like the look of. Burnley to be promoted. They're in terrific form right now, and Athletic Bilbao to finish in the top 4. There's some great picks in the chat. Just keep going up. Oh, and I took plus 100 on James Maddison over 0.5 shots on target in that Tottenham Man City game at plus 100. So,
did you say James Madison?
The English James Madison.
Okay, so that's news to me. I thought like JMU from Harrisonburg, Virginia was playing professional soccer somehow. There's a different James Madison?
Yeah, he's a famous English Premier League player, also plays for the England team. He's had a pretty successful career. I'm not sure who's the most famous James Madison. Probably depends where you are in the world.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Well, first of all, I thought that was like a team. I didn't realize that was even a player. Shows how much I know about Mr. James Madison over there in Europe. I went to James Madison, so that's why I was just like shook when you said that. And I think there's some James Madison chatter in the chat. Where's Buckets when you need him? Big James Madison fan. I'll have to replay that social media clip. It was unbelievable. I think Sia needs to tail the James Madison bit. Actually, Alex Jones, I might have to do that. That's just good content right there. So thank you for pointing that out. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I got to get out of here because, obviously we've got the early wedge at 10:30. Again, we'll get to the recap screen in a second. Even if you're not like a super big golf person or a golf betting person, first of all, I mean, I do think it's the most fun sport to bet. You got a 4-day sweat, which is always super, super fun. Got outrights, matchups, a lot of variation. But Patrick McDonald, me, and Rick, it's just going to be a fun show. If those of you that don't know Patrick McDonald, he is low-key like one of the funniest, smartest people I've ever met. Anytime I do a show with him, it's great. And I've been working with Rick for about 5 years now. Everybody knows Rick Gaiman from rickrungood.com. This guy is so impressive. So please make sure you join us every Wednesday at 10:30. That's in 5-6 minutes, folks. All right, let's take a look at the recap screen before we get out of here. Of course, my golf pick starts tomorrow early morning, so you do have to get this in tonight. It's why I'm giving it out today on the early edge. Ryan Gerard, plus 145 over Jesper Svensson and Quade Cummins. We got Kentucky money line today from Tom Casale. That's at minus 145. That number has gone up a little bit. So just know that, he put it in at SportsLine at minus 145. And anytime he puts a bet in, it usually changes. But he did say he would play the spread at minus 2.5 if that's where you have it. We got Zack Cimini with Wofford minus 8.5 at minus 110. Moneyline parlay from Martin Green. Rangers plus Juventus minus 125. And West Ham Leicester, both teams to score at minus 133. SportsLine picks. We got James Harden under 26.5 points at minus 110 from Prop Bet Guy, and Arkansas minus 3.5 at minus 115 from the Maestro. Feels like that one was at least casually endorsed by this crew here. I kind of like this Arkansas play as well. And I like doing shows with Martin Green, Zack Cimini, and Tom Casale. It is always an education. Everybody, thank you for joining us, and hopefully you'll join us even if it's just for a few minutes. This is our first live show on a Wednesday that we're doing for this new early wedge rollout. So I'd really appreciate some people being in here, some activity, whether you have a golf question or not. Would love to see you and hear from you. On behalf of Zach, on behalf of Martin Green, on behalf of all of you, on behalf of Tom, on behalf of Ben, absolutely crushing it on the 1s and 2s and 3s and 4s. It's been a great show. We're going to have another great show in 4 minutes. We'll see you next time on The Early Edge. We rest our case.